Right. I think we should start forwards already. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to class today. My name is Paramide, and I'll be the anchor for today's class. So today we'll be looking at errors and exceptions. Okay. So at any point in time, please, let's ask questions if I'm too fast. And today's class would actually be interactive. Okay. So let's start. All right. So errors and exceptions. So before now, you must have encountered various error types from running your code. This can be coming. Okay. So errors and exceptions. Before now, you must have encountered various types of errors from running your code. This can be broadly categorized into two. So we have basically two types of errors. We have the syntax errors and we have the exceptions. So for syntax errors, as a beginner in programming, syntax errors is likely the most common errors you would encounter. It is an error that you get. It is an error that gets returned when the interpreter is actually trying to pass our code and the interpreter is actually unable to understand our code. In the example codes below, you would need to figure out the syntax errors. When you figure it out, write the correct version below and execute. So today's class will be interactive, okay? So today we'll definitely be looking at errors and exceptions. And as I've said before, we have syntax errors and we have exceptions. Syntax error is as a result of the interpreter being unable to understand what we are writing. Do you understand? So let's start with the first one. So we can actually mute our mic because today's class is actually meant to be interactive, okay? So a minute. Now this is an error and you can see it is actually a syntax error. So in order to, it is actually not possible to write code and not, at least as a beginner, you would encounter errors. So it is part of our job to read the error code and try to really decode or debug the error to fix it. So now this is actually my line of code, but I have an error that is saying, oh, it is actually a syntax error. And it is telling me that missing parentheses in call to print. Now, the interpreter is even suggesting what I should have done. You understand? Now, see what I did. Print, then hello world. But we all know that print is actually a function and it is followed by what? By parentheses. So this is actually what I should have done. So it is actually possible. Maybe we're writing an exam and time is actually against us. I would actually forget to use this parenthesis. Now that can be the cause of this error. You understand? So this is actually what we should have done. So this would work, but this won't. Okay. So this is an example of a syntax error because the system is unable to really read our code. The system does not understand what we are trying to do. Okay. Now, let me run this and see. So there's actually a syntax error too. So can anybody suggest what the error is, to be precise? Anybody? Okay. So let me read the error. Now it is actually telling me that it is a syntax error. And as you can see, it is for I in range. Now the interpreter is actually pointing to somewhere around this place. Meaning, is it that there is actually something missing? So the interpreter will definitely suggest to me where to. So let me copy this and try to fix the error. So on a normal day, if I'm declaring a for loop, like for I in range, there should be this, what is it called? Is it hyphen or no? Is it hyphen? So this is actually what is actually missing in the code. So something as minute as this can actually prevent our code from running, can actually lead to error. So this is actually the problem, and I can just come here and say print I, because I'm not printing anything. I only call the print function here. So now I'm printing I. So let's run this and see. Now this is what we should have instead of this. Now this hyphen is missing, and that's the reason why we have a syntax error. Okay, so let me run this and see. This also is actually giving us an error. So let's try and decode it and see where the error is. Okay. Now the system is even suggesting to me that the error is actually here. Okay. And it is an invalid syntax. That's a syntax error. So let me copy it and try to fix the error.
Equals to.
No, that is actually not the error. This equals to is like saying, you know, I've actually explained it earlier. Now we have this, and we have, I'm coming. We have this, and we have this. Now we use this for assignment. If you want to say, okay, let A be equals to 10. So we use the single equal sign to assign a value to a variable. But we use this to say, okay, let me take for instance, if A is 10 and B is 10. For instance, let me say A is 10 and B is 10. Then I can come here and say A equal to B. So the single one is to assign. Why this is actually to compare. Is A equal to B? Like you're saying they are the same thing. You're actually placing them inside a balance, what is it called? You're saying A and B are the same thing. That is when you use double equal to. But if you're assigning, then it is just one. So for this one, is more or less like me assigning this 10, which is a value, to A as the variable. So what I'm actually saying here is, okay, if 10 is greater than 11, then print this is not possible. Else if 10 is equal to 10, this is valid. Else this too is valid. But let me know, okay, when I ran the code here, it is actually telling me that there is an error here. And what I should have done is, this is not how to write else if in Python. It is actually elif, not else if. So this is actually the error. Now here I have else if, but it is actually elif. That is the syntax, like the nomenclature you can see. So this is actually the error. It is actually meant to be elif and not else if. So let's go to the next one. Now, this one, okay, the code below will return a syntax error. Find the source of the error and correct it in the new cell. So let me open a new cell. And let's try and decode what this is. Okay, I'm saying a underscore num is actually collecting the number. It is a variable that whatever I input here will be assigned to. And I'm saying while a underscore num is greater than 1, then do this. So let me run this and see. Now we have an error, which is a syntax error. So can anybody tell me where the error is? Just scan through the code and just tell me if you are able to find the error.
The while is not correct. Like,
thank you very much.
Hell.
It is double hell. So it is actually meant to be single hell, right? So let me run this and see. So now it's running. It is asking me to type a number. So let me type 40. Then the value, the new value is, so what I'm actually doing is, okay, I'm assigning whatever I input to a underscore num. Then I'm saying why this number is greater than 1, then my new a underscore num should be what? I should divide it by 100. You understand? Then the new value is definitely what I'm imputing divided by 100. So I imputed 40 and I divided it by 100 and I have this. So this is actually the new value. So this is just to tell us that if Python is actually that sensitive. Now, what prevented this from running is because I used double L instead of a single L. Okay, and this leads to a syntax error. So this is also an error. And the code, what I'm actually planning to do is what? Is to get the length of this list. You know, a list is what? This. I'm assigning this, which is a list, to this variable. Okay. Now my intention is what? Is to find the length of the list. But now I've encountered an error. So can anybody tell me where the error lies? Let me copy. So anybody? Okay. So as to save our time, you know, there is actually a function length, right? Len. And for any function, even for print, this is print. We have len, right? We have dict, that's for dictionary. We have list. So most functions they have parentheses in front. You understand? And please note, there is nothing like this. Print is, everything is in small letter. So if I should make my P capital letter, it is not the same thing as small letter print. You understand? So this is not a function. You can write your function, you can define your own custom function like this, but the normal inbuilt function in Python is small letter. Most functions, so to say, are all in small letters. So Python is actually case sensitive. So for this now, the parenthesis is missing. So this is what I should have done. And let me run the code. And you see, now, so it is even telling me that, okay, it is a syntax error, and it will definitely point to that line. You can see this arrow. It will point to that line, that it is actually this line that is having an error. So it is definitely telling you to look closely and try to debug whatever the error is. So that is that on syntax error. Syntax error is as a result of the interpreter being unable to read or understand your code. Then the second category of error is exceptions. Now, exceptions, on the other hand, is an error encountered while your code is executing. This can occur even if your code is syntactically correct. Now we have three types of error, three types of exceptions. We have the name error, we have the type error, and we have the zero division error. So name error, let's start with name error. This type of error gets returned when you try to use an object name that has not been created, such as a variable or a function name. The examples below show such errors. Now, take a look at this. Let me print this and see. Now, this is a name error. A name error in the sense that I'm calling this function, okay? But this function has not been created. Do you understand? It has not been created before because, first of all, the normal print function I should have used is everything should be in small letter, like this. So what the interpreter is actually saying is, oh, okay, maybe Aramide has actually created a function that has a capital P. All right, but I've actually not created the function. So it is like me calling a function that I've not created. And that is one of the, that is like an example of a name error. A name error occurs when you use a variable that you've not declared, or you use a function that you've not declared. You understand? So the correct thing should have been small letter print. But now this can actually be a function. That is if I've declared it.
Oh, yeah, go.
It is not inbuilt. So that is the reason why we have name error. So let me run this and we'll see. You see, hello world. Now this is another form of a name error. Now let me explain it. I'm saying if age is greater than or equals to 18, then print you are of driving age. Do you understand? But this is a variable which has not been declared. So the interpreter is actually asking itself that what is age? Do you understand? Now I'm declaring an if condition here, that if age is greater than or equals to 18, then print you are of driving age. But what is age? I am declaring a variable, like I'm actually using a variable here, but the variable has not been declared, which is what leads to this error. So let me copy this error and fix it now. So I can either use this to say, okay, age is 20. Now, if age is 20 and 20 is definitely greater than 18, you are of driving age. Do you understand? Or I can come here and use the input function. So,
Mama,
let's leave this and just.
Mama.
And as I've said, we have this error because I'm using a variable that has not been declared. All right. So let me run this as well. Now, this also is a name error. A name error in the sense that, yes, I declared the function to be what? FUNC, right? But I'm coming here to call this function. This is not the name I used, right? Meaning this function does not exist because it is not declared. And you know, name error is as a result of using what doesn't exist. It can either be a variable or a function. And if you even read the error code, it is telling us that this name function is not defined. So what I should have done should be what? FUNC. Then FUNC. Because FUNC is actually the name of the function I declared. Now you have do nothing. Okay, so let me run this and see. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I know what to do. Let me come here and say H1. Okay, so this as well leads to an error. Now, what I intend doing is I declared name, which is lacquer, but in the print function, I'm saying name is going to turn H1. Now, I didn't declare H1, which is the same thing as me using a variable that wasn't declared. And you can read the error code. The error code is telling me it's actually a name error and H1 is not defined. So I should have done something like this. Let me copy it. So it should have been H1 is equals to, now let me say my age is 6. So you can now see Laka is going to turn 18. So this is as a result of what I used a variable that wasn't declared, which will lead to a name error. Okay. Now let's see this. Now this leads to an error too. Now I declared a function, use umbrella, and my variable is temperature, right? So I'm saying if my temperature is greater than 30, then return true, else return false. Now I now want to call the function. But instead of me to actually input a variable here, I went ahead, instead of me to input a value. The reason why I need to input a value is this temperature is just a variable that holds a value. So I'm coming here to declare an if statement on it. That if temperature is greater than, meaning any value I assign to temperature, if it is greater than 30, then return true, that the person should use an umbrella, else return false. But now, I need to actually call the function, but instead of inputting a value, I imputed temperature, which is saying temperature is not defined. So if I want to use it in this format, okay, so if I want to use it in this format, I can come here to say, okay, I can come here to say my temperature is 10. You understand? Now this is, I've actually defined what my temperature is. Then I now use the temperature inside the function. Now I have false. If my temperature is 100, I'm definitely going to have true. Why? Because 100 is what is greater than 30, so it will return true. But if 100 is not greater than 30, it will come and return what? False. So, coming. So now I'm using temperature is 100, it will return true. You can see true. So far so good. We've discussed, we said errors are actually divided into two. We have the syntax error and we have the exceptions. Now exceptions can be divided into three. We have the name error, which has been treated. Then we have the type error and we have the zero division error. Now we are moving to the type error. Okay. Now, type error as it sounds, it occurs when you try to carry out an operation on a data type that does not support that operation. Okay. That is when you have a type error. Meaning you're trying to perform an operation on a kind of data type and that operation is not supported. Take for instance, I'm saying 5 minus 3. Now, for this 3 to have been in quotation, this is no longer an integer. This is now. Babatode, can you mute your mic?
Oh, sorry.
All right. Now, this is a type error because I'm saying 5 minus 3. This 3 is now a string. It is not an integer. Let's see what happens. You can see it is a type error. And let's try and read the error message. It is telling us that it is a type error. Unsupported operand. Now, I should use integer. Now, this is integer and string. This is a string. I cannot subtract a string from an integer. Okay. So what I should have done should be what? 5 minus 3. This would give us 2. But this is a type error because of what? This is a string and this operation doesn't stand. And as I've said, a type error occurs when you try to carry an operation on a data type that does not support that operation. Okay, so let me run this and see. Now, this is also a type error. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to multiply a sequence, which is a list, by another sequence. It is not possible. Okay, and what is the error saying? Can't multiply sequence by non-int of type. That is a list. So what I should have done should be something like this. Let me copy this. So, and even from the error, it is actually telling us that you can't multiply a sequence by non-integer type. What I used was a list. So the error would actually suggest what you should have done. And another way, if you're actually running your code on Google Colab, you can click on this. You understand? Of any error you actually encounter, you can click on this and it will take you to Stack Overflow, where you can actually see people's suggestions on how to, but these ones are actually simple in such a way. But if you're writing a code and it is actually complicated, for every error here, you would actually have, okay, you can actually go to Stack Overflow and, okay, so it will suggest to you what you should have done at least. But it is actually not most times. At times you might actually not get a result for it, but most times you would get something familiar or similar to what you've done, which you can actually use to correct your code. So this is what I should have done here. Yes, it is possible for me to multiply an integer with a list, but I cannot use the list to multiply a list. It is not possible. And what will this do? It will just, if it is 2, let me say it is 2, it will duplicate the list. So it is more or less like me duplicating the list for 2. So I will have 3, 4, 3, 4. But this won't work because I cannot use a list to multiply a list. All right. Now, this will also return an error. As we said yesterday, this is a tuple. Okay. Now I'm saying 3 greater than a tuple. Now I can't compare this, and let's try and see what the error code is. It is a type error, yes. It is not supported between instances of integer and tuple. Okay. So yes, it is possible for me to say 3 greater than 5. Then this would return false because it is not true. 3 greater than 1 would return true because it is true. Okay. But I cannot use this operand to compare an integer and a tuple because it is a type error. Okay. The same thing for this. This is a string. Okay. They are not of the same data type. This is a string and this is an integer. And it is telling me that it is not supported between an integer and a string. So if this is what I should have done is to declare 8 as an integer or a float. So I can declare 8 as a float, which will give me this is false. But I cannot declare it as a string. Declaring it as a string is more or less like me putting it in quotation mark. Okay. So to do, now fix this error. Now I'm declaring my variable a to be equals to this. We all know that this is a tuple. We explained it yesterday. Okay. And as I've said, you cannot manipulate a tuple. Okay. So first of all, let me run it. Now what I planned on doing here is I declared my a to be equals to 5, 6, and 7, which is a tuple. Now this line of code is what? I'm trying to change this first element, which is 5, to 10. Do you understand? So let me run it and see. Now this will give me an error. Why? Because it is a tuple. I cannot change, as we said yesterday, you cannot alter a tuple. Do you understand? So the hint here is for me to really do something like this, because tuple does not support you changing it. Once you create a tuple, you cannot change whatever that is there. So now I need to what? I need to change the data type. So now let me change it to a list. So let me say B is equals to list A. Okay. So let me print B. You can see that I've actually changed A to a list. So let's do something now. Let me say, what is type? Type A. Oh, we have 10 minutes. So type A is a tuple. What is type B? Now type B is a list. So you can see that I've actually converted using this list function to convert the tuple to a list. Now I cannot come here and say 0 is equal to 10. Now this is me assigning the first value, which is 0. You know, Python is actually 0 index. So the first value now, I'm actually changing it to 10. So let me run my B. Now my B would now be 10, 6, 7. Now I've changed it. It was formerly 5, 6, 7, but I cannot change it here because A is a tuple. Now what I did was to change it to a list. Then I assigned 10 to the first value. Now I have this. Okay. So meaning on exceptions, we've treated name error and type error. Now let's go to zero division error. As we can probably guess, this error is as a result of dividing a number by 0. So let me come here and on a normal day, we know in mathematics, you cannot divide anything by 0. It is actually infinity. You see, it is infinity because you can't divide by 0. Anything divided by 0 is undefined. Sorry, is undefined. So that is when you have zero division error. So now what this is saying is, I'm declaring this also will give us an error. I'm saying for I in range 15. Now my divisor is now 3 multiplied by 1 minus 3. So at the point where I is 3, you know, I will have 3 minus 3, which is 0. And multiplying this 3 times 0 will give me 0. Now my divisor here will be 0. Okay. So at the point where I is 3, I'll have an error. So let's see. You can see this is 0, 1, 2. But at the point where I is 3, I'll have an error. So let's go to how to undo exceptions. Now we have the implicit and the explicit way of handling an exceptions. Now, implicit exception handling. In handling exceptions implicitly, we'll check. The checks will be to put in place to ensure that the code does not encounter error situation. Note, you can only undo error that you've anticipated. Do you understand? Take, for instance, the last line of code. Now, I know that it is definitely going to lead to an error when I is 3. Do you understand? Meaning, it is an error when this divisor is 0. So what I did was what? To use an if condition to say, if at any point in time where this divisor is 0, then continue. And what will continue do? Continue is more or less like skip. We've treated that as well. You know, we have break, we have pass, and we have continue. Continue with skip. So what I'm saying is, at any point where this divisor is 0, then skip. Do you understand? So that would, but I'm actually printing this so that I would know. So this is a way of me handling the error, because I know at any point in time where this divisor is 0, then it's definitely going to give an error. So I'm actually using this if condition to cater for that kind of error. So let's see. Now it is actually meant to give an error here. The divisor is 0, but I've skipped it. Then it's printing this. Okay. So that is one way of fixing the error. Now, another way is, okay, let's take a look at this code. While true, now I'm saying input age, that please enter your age. So now, if the person, you know, you're telling the person to input age, right? But what if the person imputed, if you're asking the person to input their age, definitely you're expecting an integer to be precise, right? But an error can come as a result of the person inputting Z, Y, T. Do you understand? Now, that is not an integer, okay? And if you're actually declaring any operation on the age, say, okay, age plus 1, age greater than 4, if the person did not input that integer, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if the person imputed a string, then that will lead to an error, which can actually cause your code to break. But now, you've foreseen that kind of error that the person can actually impute something that you don't want. So now, what I did here was say, okay, age is equals to input age, please enter your name. Whatever the person input will be assigned to age. Now, I am now handling the error implicitly by saying, declaring an if condition to say, if age is digits. Now, this is digit is a function, okay? If age is digits, then age is equals to this. I'm converting it to an integer. The person, okay, and I'm saying, okay, you would be age plus 1 next year, all right? Then break. Now, if age is not digits, then to come here and write, please enter a numeric value. So let's see. Let me put Y. Now, it will definitely tell me to what? Please enter a numeric value, because I've actually used this to cater for that kind of error. Y is not a digit, so it is this line of code that will be executed, okay? But if I should input 7, then it will tell me, okay, it will add 1 to my age, and it will break immediately. So it is telling me that you would be 8 next year, all right? So you can actually undo error explicitly. We have 2 minutes to go, so let me quickly run through this, okay? Explicitly has to do with you using try, except. So in handling exception explicitly, a try catch block is used to enclose the part of the program where the exception is to be expected. So now this is for I in range 15, Now I'm saying try this. But if there is an error, which this is, it is actually an exception. So if it is an error, this is the name of the error, then execute this and continue. What continue does is to skip, okay? So I've actually used this try and except to undo the error, because if this wasn't there, at any point in time where this divisor is 0, then it will throw up an error. So I have a better example here to explain how to use try and except. So let's assume I want to collect a person's age, okay? And I want to know, I'm trying to check if the person's age is greater than or equals to 18. Then if the person is greater than or equals to 13, you're an adult, so you should print this, okay? But what if the person imputed an alphabet? You know, because the person imputed an alphabet, that is a string. This operator, I cannot use an operator like greater than equals to on a string. It will lead to an error. So in order to cater for that error, this except would help me do that, okay? And sorry, so let me run this because our time is actually going. So what is your age? Let me say my age is you, okay? So it will tell me, sorry, your age can only be an integer. You understand? So let me run this again and say 7. So now it is telling me, oh, my age is 7, you are not an adult. You are not yet an adult, okay? So I will share, I'm having less than 1 minute. Oops. Okay, so this is actually my own code for the guessing game I posted, okay? We can read through it and see. So I use the try and except to actually undo the game, okay? And what this will do is, this except will undo any situation where what I'm actually imputing is not an integer. At any point in time, no. Yup. Boo, 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 boo. I'm busy now. I'm coming. Sorry, please. I'm trying to share now. I'm trying to look for the notebook. I'm coming, please. I'm trying to look for the notebook. Okay, can you all see my screen?
No.
Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. We'll be done in 5 minutes. I hope you all understand what we've been talking about. So just a recap, we have 2 types of errors. We have the syntax error and we have the exceptions. Syntax error is as a result of the system being unable to understand your code. Now, exceptions is divided into 3. We have the name error. Name error as a result of if you're using a variable or a function that you've not defined, that will lead to a name error. Now, type error is if you're actually using an operation that the data type does not support, all right? And we'll have the division error. That is if you're actually dividing whatever by 0, you understand? But we can actually now handle our error in 2 ways. Is either explicitly or implicitly. Now, implicit is something like this. You understand? Now, I know that the age can either be, the age is actually meant to be an integer, right? So I'm actually using this function to check that if this person imputed anything except anything other than an integer, then come here and come and run this code, okay? But you can only undo error which you foresee. You understand? Now, Or you can use explicit, you can handle an error explicitly by using the try and except. Okay. So I use the try and except here to actually undo the error, because on a normal day, at any point in time where this divisor is 0, then I'll have 1 divided by 0, which is definitely going to give me an error. So what I did was just to use this except to undo the error. So let me explain this line of code now. I'm saying try, then collect the person's age. You understand? Then I'm saying if age is greater than or equals to 18. So let's actually assume that the person imputed a string, let's say Y or an alphabet or anything. If the person imputed anything other than an integer or a float, I cannot use this operator on a string. Then this on a normal day should give me an error, right? So what I did was, because I cannot use this kind of operator on a string, but in order to actually undo that type of error, I use this except, because this is an exception if the age is not an integer or a float. So the except line will now, if this was not there, trust me, this will give us an error. So I've actually used this except to undo the error. So now let me input Y, as I've said, anything. So because if I should input Y, this won't work. Okay, so it is an exception. Then it will come here and print this. Sorry. So you can actually now input anything here just to let the person know that, okay. So what I did was just to print, sorry, your age cannot be an integer. So that would definitely send a message to the person, oh, yes, I've made a mistake because I imputed Y. You understand? So now, this is almost the same thing too, but so let me use, this was my code. This was what I used for the game I posted. This was my own code. So let me explain. So, the assignment was, okay, create a guessing game, right? A person has 3 trials, okay? So the person should guess any number, right? So once the person's guess is actually meant to be between 1 and 10. At any point in time where the person's guess is greater than 10, then tell the person that, oh, your guess is greater, bring it lower. So at any point in time where the person's guess is what? Lesser than 1, then you should tell the person, oh, what you guess is actually lower than what you should have guessed, right? That is what should have happened. But what if the person mistakenly press Y, T? That is not a guess, because the person is actually meant to input a number. So that is, as a programmer, me trying to foresee the error that can actually occur as a result of the end user using my code, right? Because if the person, what I'm actually expecting from the person should be an integer, right? So now, in order to cater for that kind of input from the person using the program, then I can actually use the try and except to undo that kind of scenario, and I would actually explain what I did. So I'm saying for trial in range 3, 0, and -1. What this -1 is saying is, okay, it is actually going to be decreasing, because this is the start. The start is 0. The start is 3, sorry. The stop is 0, while the step is -1, meaning the range will be 3, 2, and 1, right? So I'm saying print trial. So to tell the person, oh, you have 3 trial left, you have 2, you have 1. So I'm now saying try. Now my guess should be what the person is imputing, right? Now I'm saying if the guess is now less than 1, okay, meaning if the guess is less than 1, then print your guess is smaller than the actual number. At any point in time where the guess is the guess should be between 1 and 10. So if the guess is less than 1, meaning the person imputed 0, -4, -1, then it's definitely going to tell the person, oh, your guess is actually smaller than, what happened? Your guess is smaller than the actual number. That is what is actually expected of the person. But what if the person imputed Y, Z, Tolu, anything other than an integer? Then that is what? That is an exception. For that case, because I'm actually using this operation on it to trigger an error, but this except is used to undo the exception. So it will print, sorry, your guess can only be an integer. You understand? So at any point in time where the person imputed Y, K, U, anything, a string to be specific, then it will tell the person your guess should be an integer. I'm not saying else. If the guess is now greater than 10, the way this would work is at any point in time where the person's guess is lesser than 1, then it will print your guess is smaller than the actual number. Now, if the person's guess is greater than 10, that is 11. Once the person's guess is actually greater than 10 as well, that is not what we're looking for. So it will print your guess is greater than the actual number. Now, finally, if your guess is greater than or equals to 1, and your guess is what? Less than or equals to 10, then it will now break. What this break is saying is, once this condition is done, just stop. Okay? But once this condition is not satisfied, then go back again and ask the person, meaning the person will use the second trial, the third trial. So let me run this and see. I'll create different scenarios. So first of all, let me say my guess is 9 to definitely stop. Oh, I'm coming. This should come before. This should come before. Okay. So let me say my guess is 6. It will print your guess is, you guessed it correctly. Okay. So what happened if my guess is 0? So it will tell me I have 3 trials left. By the time I imputed 0, oh, your guess is smaller than the actual number. You have 2 trials left. Okay. So it is actually telling me that, oh, I guessed 0, but my guess is actually lower. So I'm meant to increase it, right? Oh, okay, my guess is lower. Okay, then I guessed 11. So now I guessed 11, and it is telling me your guess is greater than the actual number. I guessed 0, you told me that my guess is smaller. Now I guessed 11, you're telling me my guess is what? Greater. So let's assume mistakenly I imputed G. Then to tell me, sorry, your guess can only be an integer. But because I have exhausted my trial, I can actually try 3 times, then the program will stop. You understand? But at any point in time where my guess is correct, it will break, it will stop. So let me say 7. So now I'm imputing 7, my guess is correct. It will tell me you guessed correctly and it will stop because of this break. I've explained break to us. So this is my own code, okay? But because I wouldn't want you guys to copy and paste my code back for me, I've explained it. You can all look at it again. So what I would do is I would delete it, okay? Because, at the end of this training, it is expected of us to attempt all our assignments because there is actually a certificate for it. So I'll repost the assignment again for everybody to actually try. Then I have 2 pending assignments as well. I'll make sure our assignment is actually 5. We all must attempt all the assignments to get a certificate at the end of today's class. Okay. So do we have any question? I've actually shared the link to the notebook with us, okay? So let's go through it. So today we've actually treated how to read errors, how to correct errors, and how to treat errors. So next week, Saturday, we'll be looking at how to import modules, NumPy, Pandas. There are different modules, how to import them, and Sunday would do a general revision. So in the absence of any, if in the absence of any question, then would call it a day. Oh, Babatunde, do you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, I usually experience this indentation error while writing at time. Oh, it seems you didn't mention it.
Okay. So indentation error. You know, I think you did. Okay. Are you trying to use a for loop or an if statement?
Yes, at times an if statement. Yeah, mostly an if statement.
Okay, so let me try and let me give you an hint. Okay, I'm coming. So on a normal day, this is how if works. It is if condition. Okay, if condition, then do something. Okay, so what exactly are you trying to do in your program so that we can fix it now?
Okay, for example, this like when we have for age in range list, then if age is greater than 19, probably I'm just like during when I was doing that assignment.
Okay.
I usually encounter an
So now let
indentation error.
me just tell you, if you are if you have indentation error, that is even simple. That is actually telling you that your line of code, you are meant to indent it and you did not. So take for instance, let me say age is equals to 12. Okay. I'm not saying if age, okay, is greater than if age is greater than 18, right? Now, you know, you can see automatically that, see, if I should press enter, then it will come, the cursor will definitely come under the if statement. Do you understand? And this is even wrong because an if statement is followed by this. Do you get? So if this one is correct and you press enter, the system automatically will indent your code for you. Do you understand? But let's even assume that, yes, I made a mistake and it is actually coming here. Now, I now want to say if age is greater than 18, then print you are not, you are an adult, right? Something like this. Let me print it. Now, indentation error. Do you understand? Now, if you have this kind of error and it is telling you indentation error, it will point to it that you have the error is here, which is this. And it is telling you indentation error, which is even, so what all you need to do is either you press space or you use tab. Just shift this line inside. Do you get it? And let's run it.
Yes.
Now, it will not do anything because, you know, my age is 12, right? And I'm saying it is only when age is greater than 18 that you should print you're an adult. So let me come here and say my age is 29. So you see you're an adult. But the reason why you are having that indentation error is because your line of code should be indented because you are using if. Do you understand? But what you did was to put your code on the same line with the if condition. Do you get? So just go back and just either you use space or you can also bring this print to the same line as this, then press enter. Then the system would indent it. Do you get my point?
Yes, very well.
So any other question, please? All right. So while we're actually trying to solve the assignment, please, if we have any question, please, let's drop it. Your question will be attended to. For Baba today, I checked your assignment. I tried to actually, maybe, I don't know what is actually wrong with the notebook, but I tried to pass my comment on it, but it was not saving. And I wouldn't want to post the correction for everybody to see. So you can resubmit your notebook so I can actually pass my comment on your assignment. I checked the two, but what I noticed was the code your code was actually the same thing I did the last class. So I suggested it there that, okay, you know, what I expected before was just use an if statement. So for the palindrome assignment, I want you to write it in form of a function. Do you understand? Now, we treated how to declare a function last week. Was it last week, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday? I know we did function last week. So for that assignment on palindrome, I want you to actually use a function instead. A function in the sense that once you're done with your code, let's assume you call the code Jubri palindrome now. So all I need to do is just to call the function like this. You understand? And I will pass, let's say, Ada. Do you get it? So once I run this, it should tell me, oh, it is a palindrome or it is not a palindrome. Do you understand? But this one is a palindrome because I'm actually calling a function, but it has not been defined. Do you understand? Which is actually treated today. But once you're by the time I call this, it should tell me it is a palindrome, it is not a palindrome. Do you understand?
Yeah, so, I understand. My question is, I actually got your feedback, so I'm working on it, and God's will I will resubmit hopefully very soon. But my question is, why defining, why making it a function? Do I still have to use the input?
Yes.
Function?
No, okay.
Would it work?
Try it and let's see. You know, the best way to actually...
That's what has been giving me challenges. I've been trying to figure it out, how it's going to work, but I'm still on it though.
Okay, I'll try from my hand too. You get? If
okay,
I'll try, and you should, yes, you can actually use an input function inside your function. Now, by the time you are now, you know, this is it. If you're using an input function, you get? By the time I now want to call, let's assume the name of your function is Jubri palindrome. Do you understand? I don't need to input any variable because once I run this, the function would now tell me to input. Do you understand? If you have an input function inside this now, I don't need to specify Ada anymore. Once I run it, then that input function will be triggered and it will tell me to input whatever I need to test. Do you get? So try it. Yes, you can use an input function. Okay.
Okay, I'll try it.
All right. Yeah, you can use an input function. So thank you everybody for coming to this class. See you next week.